A lot of you were curious on why I lost my job, and I'm here to tell you why. I lost my job because essentially when I first started working this job, I was replacing somebody who immediately had quit. I was working IT help desk tier 2 and 3, and I was working at a small law firm. So it was only 3 people that were supposed to be on help desk, one networking person, one applications person, and of course our big boss. So I was working with another person. We were supposed to have one more person that was going to get hired, but they couldn't find nobody. My coworker gave me the rundown for the job my first day at work, and then he went on vacation for 2 weeks after that. So I was on the job 2 weeks, pretty much learning and figuring out things on my own, asking people questions here and there, and I was keeping notes. I'm a note taker and I like to keep receipts. So I made folders of everybody that I work with name. So when they would tell me things that were important in Teams or emails, I would save it in that folder. This came in handy with my applications manager who one day let a ticket fall through the cracks. He told me, hey, you don't have to do this. It's the networking team that has to do this. And he told me that verbatim in Teams. So I took a screenshot of the full window and I put it in his folder. Later on, this came to my advantage because 2 weeks later, a person complained and said, hey, why wasn't this done? So it came all the way down to me. My manager wanted to talk to me because she said it didn't follow SLAs and that whoever it was has to get a verbal talking to. So they brought me down to the meeting room and they said this was in like something I was supposed to handle. I said, no, it was told to me that I didn't have to handle it. And she was like, well, where do you have the proof? So when I pulled up Teams, conveniently that message said this item has been deleted. And I was like, well, he did say that, it's just deleted now. And he was like, no, I said something else.
Yeah. I'm stopping right there. Hang on. Let me stop it right there and give y'all this real quick. Listen, because these are the games that people like to play when you're in corporate. If it's something you're ever unsure about, screenshot it. Now, granted, there is still a way on the back end to see what was sent, but it's going to be at the discretion of how far you're going to go back and have somebody on the security team or the messaging team to do the research of what was actually typed. All that stuff is live, regardless if people don't think it's there. Now, she should have always screenshotted that because you got CYA. Anytime in corporate, you got a CYA. And this sounded like she didn't CYA. Well, we're going to keep it playing.
But I had deleted it because of something else. And I was like, oh no, I swear I have it. So what I did, instead of showing them I had a folder, what I did is I went to the printer, printed it out, and I pulled it up and I said, yeah, I remembered I printed this. And I gave it to them. From there, I put a target on my back because after that, nobody wanted to message me in Teams or email. They would only come to my office and verbatim tell me things. And I didn't like that. So I would always act like I was on the phone or too busy to talk. And I would just Teams them and say, hey, tell me. But it kind of went around the whole office that I keep screenshots and stuff like that. So people did not want to message me or ping me. They just knew to come talk to me verbatim.
That's crazy. So I misspoke. She actually was in the right and she did what she was supposed to do. People just don't like being accountable and they felt the way about it. But at the same time, the person was trying to play her. So I don't see why they would get upset that she kept a record of what you said. So I don't agree with that.
From there, I started recording people on my company phone. So what I was doing, because I looked it up, in Washington, D.C., you can record a conversation as long as you and that person have a conversation. So when people would stop in my office and say things, I started recording them. I would just press record and start recording them and having a conversation. This, again, put another target on my back because one lady decided to start being aggressive towards me. She was wondering why her meeting wasn't set up. I said, it was set up, but unfortunately I had to go set up another meeting and you got locked out here. And the password is just your password. She didn't know that, all you need to do is log into Teams with your password and you're able to start that Teams meeting. She didn't know that because she was 80 years old. From there, she wanted to argue with me, but I stayed extremely quiet. And so she asked a condescending question. And for me, I'm just being quiet. So I just said, I apologize. Is there anything else I can help you with? She thought that, took it as an attitude. Mind you, I'm recording the whole conversation. She took it to my big boss. The big boss came down, sent me an email saying, people don't want to work with you because you have an attitude. So we're going to have a sit down conversation. I said, well, can you give me an example of these people that do not want to work with me? It's just so I know. So then she named that lady. And I was like, well, can you point me in what direction I had an attitude? And I added HR, I added my manager, and I added that video. And so after that, quiet, crickets.
Yeah, she was doing right, but this would have been some of these things is like, okay, at this point, when you go this way, your day's going to be numbered because you're a hassle and it's not even your fault. People just trying you. You working with a boomer that's 80 years old that shouldn't be working anyway. If you don't know how to use the technology at the company that's very simple to use, you should not be there. I shouldn't be having to explain to you simple things. That's I hated working with people who are super old, who don't know how to use a computer. Like, go find you something where you don't have to do that. Because now you make it seem like I did you a disservice when you just don't know how to use the stuff. And they didn't give them any type of technology training. They just threw Teams in their face and told them to use it. But yeah, they see her as more harmful than good. Mind you, she's also working help desk. So mostly we all know what help desk is. Help desk is not viewed as some glamorous role. She is more support she is not making them any money. So she is not seen as a valuable person at that company at all.
So then this happened on a Friday. I noticed on a Saturday, all my tickets were out my queue. That's when I realized they're going to fire me on Monday. So what I did is I went to the EEOC and I told them, hey, I feel like I'm working in a hostile work environment because of the fact that she said I had an attitude, and people always try to label black women as an attitude when they're not in the wrong. Boom, that went to the EEOC. They could not fire me. Boom. They turn around, end up firing my big boss. But then they replaced my big boss with a man of color, a black man. And that's when I knew I'm getting fired, because of the fact that it can't look racial if a black man is firing me. When he came working, he already knew about the closed EEOC, which I was just so confused about, because why do you know that? Nobody's supposed to know that except for the people involved. But when he came and he worked, he brought me in the office and he was like, hey, I just want to make sure that, we're going to start off on a good foot because of the fact that I have already heard about, the incident that you had with your last manager. And I'm just trying to see how I can be of service, because we got to stick together. I did not trust him at all. So I was still recording people, screenshotting everything like that. This is where a meeting comes into play. One day, I'm too busy working with a person with a user over the phone. I told my coworker, I said, hey, can you go start the meeting that's downstairs? She says, okay. She never starts the meeting. Mind you, I asked her this in Teams. Everybody wants to know whose fault it is. They're saying it's mine. I said, it's not my fault. I have a screenshot. They don't care about the screenshot. They're just like, oh, you could have put that person on hold, blah, 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 blah. They're coming up with all these reasons why it's my fault. And that's when I'm realizing, okay, it's coming down the pipeline, because she even told me, she said, they told me I got to take some of your tickets now. And I was like, oh, okay. So I started screenshotting everything, because I had screenshots of how many tickets I took. I took more tickets than anybody on that team. I was answering more questions. I was doing way more work, and I was working overtime anytime. So the fact that I was like, oh, you guys are firing me for no reason. So then one random...
I ain't gonna lie, gang. Hang on real quick. Where we at? What? Like, that is a lot. I'm not gonna stress over no help desk job that long. Like, I would have been gone and just went somewhere else, because it's help desk. You can always go find another one. So the links that she's going through for this role is just really just too much. I would have probably figured out how to get fired, or if they was gonna fire me, let them fire me and then sue them and get my money because they did me unfairly, versus going through all this. That's what I would have did. I just think she's like doing a lot.
Freaking day, they call me down and they're like, hey, can you come down? We just want to talk to you. I said, okay, sure. When I get in there, HR's in there with a big packet of folder. Mind you, I had already cleared out my office because I already knew that it was coming. I just didn't know what day. So when I get down there, I already press record on my phone, because if we're going to have a conversation, I'm recording it. When I get down there, they're like, hey, we just want to let you go because too many people are complaining about you. They say you have an attitude. And I was like, is this the reason why I'm getting fired? And they were like, well, and then my boss, who, mind you, he had just started like 2 weeks ago, he said, hold on, before we answer that, are you recording right now? I said, yes, I am. He said, well, I do not consent to being recorded. I said, so am I? He said, and that's why you're being fired. I said, I'm being fired because I'm recording. He said, no. I said, then what is it? Why am I being fired? And he was like, I do not consent to being recorded. I said, okay, well then they gave me my last paycheck, and then they wanted to give me a severance of just another 2 weeks pay. But since I already had all the proof because I emailed it to my personal, I decided to go ahead, take the severance package that they gave me, and I put it into ChatGPT, and I said, with this information I'm showing you, and I sent them all the proof I had, I said, what should I ask for? And ChatGPT was able to map out everything that I should ask for, because of the fact that they were purposely making a hostile work environment. Now, it took a few weeks of us going back and forth, and ChatGPT was my lawyer in this time, because of the fact that they got their lawyer to go back and forth, and they were like, hey, we could either, take it to court. I wanted to handle it very quickly because of the fact that I was going to a new job. I had found a new job. So basically I said, hey, what I want you guys to do is I don't want you guys to speak on this, speak on me, or say the reason why I was let go. Nobody is going to contest my unemployment, and I would like a larger sum, because this is what it says, how long it takes to find a new job. And so I got a large amount of money from this company because they realized they messed up. And that's when they said, well, if we're going to give you this large amount of money, then we would like all the proof that you took from the company, and we want it back. So we ended it like that. I got a large check, and I was able to file unemployment without them contesting it. And then later on, I found a job in November, and I started reworking again. And that's the end of why I lost my job. So let me know what I did wrong. Maybe I'm not seeing it from the optics that other people are seeing it from. But according to that check I got, I ain't do nothing wrong.
Yeah, I mean, she ended it way better than I thought it would have ended. She didn't do nothing wrong. I'm gonna just tell y'all. Listen, she was on it. Document everything, especially if you think the work environment is hostile and you're not doing nothing wrong, you're a good worker, you're upholding your end of the bargain. This is, I wonder, with the one we reacted to last week with the woman who got fired, had the HR friend, did she do stuff like this? Because this is one of the tropes that you face in corporate America, of people always saying that you got an attitude or this or that. But truth be told, they just don't like being accountable. They don't like you're standing on 10 about what's either in your job duties or what I said happened, and you're just always trying to do it. It shouldn't be that hard to just say, hey, give me a second, let me do this, or why you guys always want to put it back on me? Because this is what happens. Somebody gets in trouble and they want a fall person, and they think that you're just going to roll around for them. And I really hate that the new boss did not fight for her in a way. He was just a yes man in this case. He was a person that just put in place. So like she said, they couldn't make it feel like it was racial. And he should have just been like, look, man, I reviewed this person's work. They're a good worker. Let's drop it. Or he should have been like, I'm going to go do something else as well. Because it's only a few of us here. Like, at the end of the day, you going to have to rock for us. You're supposed to be the voice of the voiceless, not just fall in line. It didn't sound like it was some big law firm. It was very small. Of course, they probably were making money. But the fact that it wasn't too many people. I don't know, but hats off to her. She got a lot of money from that, and I think that's one of the benefits where AI can help you out. No, it's going to replace a lawyer, absolutely not. But you can put your severance and all the information through ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, whatever you want to put it through. Have it read through here for loopholes. Or should you be getting paid more? And like what she said, if I was ever to get laid off again, I'm definitely asking for 6 months plus because of how long it takes to find a job. I mean, I just am like 2 checks ain't gonna get it. That's not no severance, dog. So hats off to her. If you have a story similar to that, let me know in the comments. Have you had to deal with this in the workplace? But she gave us some good stories, so I like reacting to her. I will have the link to this video in the description so you can check her out and go follow her content. But if you like that, if you appreciate that content, like I always say, stay textual with me out. Peace.